Hello Dragon Ballers, we are here to do a second video. We got the Wild Resurgence ban list dropped on us today, and I swear to God, guys, go ask my teammates. I messaged them yesterday saying that tomorrow, talking about today, could easily be a ban list day because we recently got the release date for Wild Resurgence, which is June 16th. We didn't know for a little while even what the set name was, regardless of when it would actually release, but we are about 3 weeks out from the set release, 2 weeks away from pre-release, which is about the time frame we normally get the ban list. So it makes perfect sense that we had a drop today. I wish I would have went with my gut and not dropped a video earlier today and just waited to see if the ban list came out, but it is here. We will do a second video going over the contents of the ban list and my thoughts on it. And man, guys, like, I've already seen the contents of the ban list because I got the notification for it while I was out of the gym. Side note, make sure you guys are taking care of your personal health. But yeah, I already know the contents of the ban list, and they went ahead and pulled the trigger on the competitive landscape, which is absolutely insane. So we'll get into it. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys are planning on buying some new decks, thanks to the outrageousness of this ban list, outrageous in a good way, by the way, use my link in the description to TCG Player. It really has helped me out. I really do appreciate the support, as always, guys. Anyways, let's go ahead and scroll down and take a look at the contents of this ban list. Let's start by reading what they have to say. So we have BT21 Wild Resurgence ban errata card update. Hello, Dragon Ball Super card game fans. With the upcoming release of Zenkai Series 4 Wild Resurgence, 5 ban cards and 1 errata card will be added to the ban errata card list. So right off the rip, seeing 5 ban cards, that alone, without even knowing what they are, it's just like, wow, this is maybe a different team on the ban list or something, because this is such more of like a proactive, aggressive move by Bandai that we haven't seen on a lot of the more recent ban lists. So these changes are effective from pre-release date, BT21 Zenkai Series 4 Wild Resurgence in your region. Our official website will be updated with this information soon. So let's go over the first 2 ban cards. We have Goku and Vegeta in it together, the SS4 Gogeta leader, and we have 1-star ball Sin Shenron Despair made Manifest, both with the same reasoning. Basically, they've had an overwhelming presence in the metagame for an extended period and has limited creativity and diversity within red archetypes. We believe that by banning this card, deck diversity in the competitive landscape will improve. So yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. One counterpoint I want to bring up that was brought to me by my teammate Mike is that in Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm not personally sure about Magic or Pokemon, but definitely in Yu-Gi-Oh, there are often times where like top tier decks last for like the better part of a year or even over a year. Now, thinking back on Gogeta and Sin, this set was shown to us during last Gen Con, which this Gen Con hasn't come up yet. So these decks have not been around for a total year yet, but for me, they've still certainly gotten stale. And I know for a lot of people, they have the same sentiment. Some people, though, wanted these decks to stick around longer because they wanted to be able to play the decks they had invested in. Now, what I'll say to that is that I feel like in the base archetypes, like the cards you need specifically for Sin or Gogeta, those cards aren't really the expensive ones. It's really just the red staples that are typically most expensive, and luckily those will be transferable to whatever other red deck you decide to play, most likely. So I don't think you're losing out on too much money, to be honest, just because the Sin and Gogeta leaders are now banned. Whatever red deck you decide to play next, a lot of those staples should definitely be transferable to whatever the next red deck you decide to play is. And to be honest with you guys, I'm just happy that this seems to be an admission of like these leaders being a mistake, at least in the power level of which they were printed upon release, because it's been the case that every single red deck that's come out since the first set of Zenkai where Gogeta and Sin were released, they've just been terrible. Like, at least in comparison, I shouldn't say they've been terrible, but in comparison to Gogeta and Sin, they've just been so much weaker. So it's almost like this reverse power creep where we don't want the game to elevate to a point where the cards have to be stronger to compete. Instead, it's just that these 2 decks happen to be too good, and now we're kind of taking that retroactive move of banning those 2 overpowered leaders so that we can go back to like the Pan, the Android 13, maybe even the U7 Goku, and just like slowly creep from there and make things more interesting as more sets come out. Because with Sin and Gogeta being out, no red deck was ever going to compete unless they made something more insane than these decks, which is just a scary thought in and of itself. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll print some sort of rebooted leaders that are hopefully weaker in power, because now the problem is there are a lot of archetype cards that are absolutely useless. By banning these leaders, you've essentially banned a ton of their archetype cards. But trust me, I'm sure down the line we'll get some sort of reboot leader where you'll be able to use the Sin Z leader again, maybe even the Gogeta Z leader and some of those archetype cards. We'll see what ends up happening with those. But yeah, anyways, let's go ahead and keep reading the ban cards. We have SS4 Gogeta Triumphant Together. Reason: in conjunction with Shenron the Eternal Dragon, this card promotes non-interactive strategies all red decks can use. We find this synergy to be at a power level we deem excessive and promote predictable and unenjoyable play patterns. Therefore, we decided to add this card to the ban list. I mean, totally agree. I really didn't expect them to hit this card. I didn't expect them to ban the leaders either, to be honest. I thought some sort of errata was incoming. But the fact that they banned the leader and this card, yeah, this strategy just wiped off the entire face of the earth, which, yeah, I'm not totally upset about. Like, the problem with Gogeta 8 was that certain colors had really good answers to this. Like blue had the best one in the form of Dirty Burst, and hoo-wee, that's a card we'll talk about in just a minute. And then yellow now had like Vegito, Overwhelming Might, among some other things that were able to sort of punish the Gogeta players for playing this card. But like green had nothing good for this. Black had Shin, Noble Supremacy, but was only good if you go second, in which case you were already at a disadvantage. And in the red mirror, you had like Violent Rays if your opponent made a crucial mistake, or just like trying to punish them for tapping out for a 4-drop. Those are like your two main options in red. But yeah, like this card I think was a little bit too unhealthy for the game, because it really gave Gogeta like two different modes where it could go rather aggressive, and I would say it was definitely less aggressive than Sin in a lot of cases. But if the aggro didn't work out, you had this boss monster that was nigh uninteractable and just cleared your board and forced you to have super combos. If you didn't have the super combos, you were in big trouble. So yeah, and with the new Sin SCR coming out, I think that card is really cool. This card would have been a little bit over the top with it, so yeah, definitely a good idea. Now let's go ahead and keep on reading. We have the Gamma Leader ban as well. So this card has had an overwhelming presence in the metagame for a period that exceeded expectations and has limited creativity and diversity within blue archetypes. We believe that by banning this card, deck diversity and competitive landscape will improve. So I do somewhat agree with this. I mean, I think the blue landscape was somewhat versatile. I mean, you had 21, you had Gamma, you had Expert 21, a lot of Android based decks because Android cards just seem to be so good right now. But I think the more impactful reason why Gamma needed to go was that it just gave you too much free energy, and it was the same problem we saw with SS3 Goku all the way back in the day. It's just way too free. Like your plays on offense are way too good, and your plays on defense are also just way too good. So this hit alone I think is going to be a big hit to like the quote-unquote floodgate meta, because now these decks like blue and yellow alike are going to have to actually make decisions whether or not to spend energy on offense in order to leave energy open on defense. That's a really big important thing. So now if decks want to floodgate you, they have to sacrifice a good bit of their offense, their proactive capabilities to do that, and Gamma was obviously counterbalancing that entire idea. So now that it's banned, I mean, overall just a good thing. Again, a lot of cards are unfortunately going to be useless now that this leader's gone, but I'm sure we'll get more Gamma leaders down the road. Maybe not even a reboot leader because this character is still so fresh. Maybe we'll just get a brand new blue leader that still works with the playing from the energy stuff, but isn't as broken, hopefully. Now the next ban card, we have Dirty Burst. Reason: this card serves as an oppressive countermeasure to the most powerful finishers in the current environment, while being very difficult to disrupt. Very few cards exist in other colors with a similar functionality, so I've chosen to ban this card to avoid over-centralization of blue strategies in current and future metagames. Okay, so basically what they're saying here is, we don't want there to be the case where if like 8-drop bombs are just overly dominant, which I mean, SCRs exist, right? We don't want people to only play blue because blue is the only color that can counter those cards, which does make sense. I think I would have went more so along the lines of just giving other colors better answers to these things. Again, mostly green and maybe black. Red being like the aggressive color, I don't think should be able to answer big bosses. If you get to that point in the game where your opponent is successfully able to drop their boss on you, you probably should lose because you failed in your mission to aggro them out. But yeah, for the other colors, it definitely would have been a little bit nice if they had some better answers. But yeah, this is a big deal for blue decks because now like a lot more SCRs are going to be way more impactful against the blue decks, which is good because now they can't get to their like ultra crazy late game so freely, right? So yeah, I think this is like a fine hit. I do wonder if it's going to like meta thrash a little bit to where certain SCRs and boss cards become too OP, but I'm not really too afraid of it, to be honest. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. What's also interesting though is that now blue has way less efficient ways to play around Broly Crown, because you could leave 3 energy open in blue, and then if your opponent decided to spend energy on Broly Crown, you could Dirty Burst, which still shuts down their 8 costs and higher, and also prevents them from looking at your hand. So that's actually going to make Broly Crown a bit better against blue, but I mean red overall is going to be much weaker. I'm very excited though to see like if 13, if Pan, if maybe even U7 Goku can step up. That'll be real cool. Now we have an errata card. So we have Zeno Universal Control. Okay, so a lot of people are talking about this card because of how it immediately destroys the new Goku Black Ultimate deck that has just come out recently, and that's true. I mean, the problem is like people were not going to side this card right off the rip, but if Goku Black ever became a good deck, then yeah, this would immediately go in sideboards, and that deck would become instantly terrible, right? So they've errata this card, and then originally it said when this card's played, choose up to 12 of your opponent's battle cards with God or Universe and their special trait, storing barrier, negate their indestructible skills, and remove them from the game. Now the post-text errata says when this card is played, you may choose 12 of your opponent's opponent's battle cards with God or Indestructible, and then if you do, you get to remove them from the game. So yeah, the Zeno only works if your opponent has exactly 12 of those cards or more, I guess, in their battle area. Honestly, they should have just banned this card. My personal opinion, this card will never see play for the rest of time in this game unless they print some broken God or Universe deck that can somehow spam out 12 bodies. Yeah, this card is now absolutely terrible. They should just went ahead and banned it because yeah, if they ever feel the need to reprint this card, it would be pointless because I don't think anyone will ever play this thing. But I guess it is there for maybe the Great Priest deck. I don't even know what the last Activate Battle does. Maybe it's useful. I don't know. But yeah, this is not going to be countering the likes of Goku Black or other indestructible strategies anymore. Goku Black may still have some issues, though. I mean, it's going to be actually interesting. Goku Black might be much better because I tested the deck. I put the deck profile out. I like the deck. It definitely had a really rough time against red, but now that the two big red issues are gone, we'll have to see if Goku Black can go toe-to-toe with some of the new red decks that will maybe have a bit of a harder time removing their indestructible cards. That's going to be a big thing. Although I got to say, I don't think getting -20 on a card is going to be that difficult for most red decks. So Goku Black might still have a rough time. I guess it really depends on like how prevalent red is going to be in the meta. If we see like red at like, you know, maybe 20% of the meta, like, you know, assuming all colors have equal representation, then maybe Goku Black has a spot and just, you know, has a bad matchup here and there. But blue still has the new Champ Pack promo Trunks that can remove indestructible as well. So in blue mirrors, that can also be somewhat of an issue. But yeah, still definitely a good thing for Goku Black. Not necessarily going to bring it to the forefront of the meta or anything. But now below here, we have a ton of erratas because as we know, a lot of the set 21 stuff was just printed incorrectly. So I'm not going to go over all this, but there are two key ones that I want to go over. The Cell Leader was basically errata to say all battle cards in your deck must be green androids. So there's no longer going to be this issue of like Black Mass Sand or Koitsukai being able to interact with Ginger Town. That's a good thing, of course. And then the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, it's somewhere here, I just don't remember exactly where, was also errated to add up to 2 life from your hand. I think it's actually down here. Yeah, so the pre-errata text: if all your energy is green, this card's in active mode, you may play 1 card from under. If you do, add up to 2 cards to your life. That was totally incorrect. The post-errata text: if all your energy is green, this card's in active mode, you may play 1 card from under this card. If you do, add up to 2 cards from your life to your hand, which is actually what I speculated it to do upon initially reading it. Still a super powerful card. Like, play a card for free, which, you know, free play is very sparing in modern Dragon Ball Super. And if you need to get down to lower life for some reason, you have the ability to do that on command. Still a very good card, but yeah, not as broken as like free rejuvenation like some of us thought. But overall, my thoughts on this ban list: obviously huge hits to red. It's going to be interesting to see if some of the lesser red decks, 13, Pan, U7 Goku, maybe some other ones, can step up here and still keep the aggro presence, because at the end of the day, for a balanced format, we still do want to have good aggro decks. And I think if like 21 is the pinnacle of a control deck, I think red is still in a good spot, because don't forget, like, U7 Goku can hit for some big double strikes and crit as early as like turn 2. So that's still going to leave 21 a good bit vulnerable if they tap out for their ramp on 2, especially going second. They might have to adapt and like not go for the ramp on 2, especially going second. So I think that's going to still be a pretty decent thing there. 13, somewhat impressive with that triple attack double strike combo they have. And then Pan has just been relatively decent, just again overshadowed by Sin and Gogeta. Gamma, I mean, there's still other good blue decks, so that's not really a concern. Some people are talking about a yellow only format, which I don't really see happening. Like, yeah, I think yellow is gonna have a much better time dealing with the current state of red, as it will be going forward, but I still think blue and yellow are gonna be somewhat equally matched, so I'm not too concerned there. And with these hits, the green stuff in set 21 might actually make it meta, man. Like, that might be a hot take, but I think the Gohan deck looks really good. These bans definitely help it out a good bit. We'll see if Cell is able to do some things. I have some teammates that are somewhat confident in that strategy as well. But yeah, overall, I think things are looking pretty good. Black might even step up because they might be held down less by red strategies, because black typically has been the other aggressive color, with the clearly overpowered red stuff being taken down quite a few notches. Black, like Cumber and Spring Kind of Time, might also step up. I think this is going to be a good landscape for the game, to be honest with you. I'm excited for it. And of course, I want in the comments below what you guys think about it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.